I'm Adam with Cookie Sue's, and I'm here to tell you how to make great tasting, simple, gluten-free chocolate cake. Now, as we've shown you earlier, you're going to go ahead and prepare your cake pans in the gluten-free way. Now you're ready to go. We've already preheated the oven to 350 degrees. The next step is a little bit more interesting. We're going to start with a cup of water, 2 ounces of 60% cacao bittersweet chocolate. Now that's where you can make some changes to your own taste preference. If you want to add half of that milk chocolate, you can do that. Make it a little bit sweeter, but a little bit less intense chocolate. You can go anywhere from milk to semi-sweet to 60% bittersweet. We recommend the 60% bittersweet for this. Now you can get on a double boiler, you could do all that complex stuff. It's really easy. Put it in a glass oversized measuring cup with a cup of water. Go ahead and put it in your microwave. Microwave about 5 minutes at high. Just kind of keep an eye on it. What you're looking to do is get to that point where the chocolate is basically softened, ready to be melted, and all it takes is a simple butter knife to make sure it's thoroughly blended with the water. While that's doing that, let's go ahead and move on to our dry ingredients. First of all, a cup of sugar. Now we're going to use 1.5 cups of Cookie Sue's gluten-free all-purpose flour. Packaging may be different in this, but it's the same product. First thing you do when you get a new bag, of course, shake it just slightly. Go ahead and rip it open. Really easy to do. Now, as I said, it calls for 1.5 cups of flour. Half cup. Kind of shake out the excess. Full cup. 1.5 cups. Now, next thing is a full teaspoon baking soda. There you go. And a half teaspoon of salt. That's all you need. Now with your hand whisk, go ahead and just make sure those are blended before you add anything else into the mix. Let's check on our chocolate. You see it's steaming. Let's heat it up. Let's see if it does what we want it to do. Look at that. Chocolate nicely with the butter knife mixes up and dissolves into the water. Now that we've let this cool, let's start with the cocoa powder. Cocoa powder goes in, and again, using your hand whisk, go ahead and thoroughly combine the cocoa powder with your chocolate and your water. We put a half cup of cocoa powder into there. And again, all these recipes are available on CookieSues.com. This is called the gluten-free chocolate cake. Very simply named. Now we're going to go ahead and add the secret ingredient, which is mayonnaise. We have 2/3 of a cup of mayonnaise. You may think that's a strange ingredient for a cake, but of course mayonnaise is nothing more than a mixture of egg and oil, which are common ingredients in any cake. Now, there's also a little bit of vinegar in mayonnaise, according to most packaging when you read on the mayonnaise. I don't recommend using anything other than labeled real mayonnaise. Certainly never anything like Miracle Whip. And if you notice on the Hellmann's jar, it specifically calls itself a gluten-free product. And if you're feeling a little bit nervous about that, look for that on all the labels of your ingredients. Look for that on your baking powder, your cocoa powder, just that little bit of extra peace of mind that you want. Now after you have the cocoa powder, the 2/3 cup of mayonnaise, we're going to add in 1 egg. By adding the egg last, we made sure this solution have been cooled down by the mayonnaise, cooled down by the cocoa powder, and you're not going to cook any of that egg. So I recommend adding that ingredient last. Now you have your wet ingredients, which is again, mayonnaise, chocolate, water, cocoa powder, 1 egg. We're going to go ahead and combine that into the same bowl. We aerated your dry ingredients. See, it's really not a whole lot more complex than baking from a box mix. You just have to know how to scratch bake. But once you figure it out, it's pretty easy. With a wooden spoon, we're going to go ahead and stir that up. Now you've got this mix, we're going to add the final ingredient. It's 2 teaspoons of vanilla. To be honest, sometimes I forget it. It doesn't kill the recipe, but the vanilla typically in most recipes will go in last. That little beep says my oven is ready. It's pretty convenient because my cake's almost ready. You don't want to see any streaks of white. You don't necessarily want to over stir any batter. Cake pans have been prepared. Now it says in any of my recipes, divide cakes evenly. The question is, how do you do that? Well, I like to use a scale. In fact, I recommend you buy it as inexpensive as possible, a little scale for your kitchen, because a lot of our recipes, especially when we get into the Cookie Sue signature flavors and treats, do call for exact measurements of weights of chocolate and things like that. So a good handy scale works. You hit your tar, back down to 0. We're going to go ahead and pour some cake in. Sort of mix it around a little bit with your rubber spatula to get it down level in your pan. It will spread out when it bakes, but I like to give it a head start. You'll find with the when you use the Cookie Sue's flour, your batter will look thicker than cake batter normally looks. Don't be concerned with that. We're not concerned with what it looks like going in the oven as much as what it looks like coming out of the oven, which should be almost an exact duplicate of your, if we had used traditional all-purpose flour in this recipe instead of the Cookie Sue's. There you have it. We're going to bake for about 15 minutes at a 350-degree oven. Hi, this is Adam with Cookie Sue's, and today I'm going to show you how to make a foolproof, easy to make chocolate frosting. When you see how easy this is, you're going to wonder why you ever bought frosting in a can before. And my mixer, fitted with a whisk attachment, I have 2.5 sticks of softened, unsalted butter. Always use unsalted butter with almost every recipe on our website. As you know, or may not know, the only difference between salted and unsalted butter is that salted butter, obviously they've added salt before they start the churning process, which helps it churn quicker, which is why they like you to buy salted butter. The creamier butter is actually unsalted, and when you use that, you can actually adjust the amount of salt that you want in your recipe. So I've added a cup of powdered confectioner sugar, and I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of my cocoa powder, my naturally sweetened, not Dutch processed, just regular cocoa powder. If I said a company, probably Hershey's. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to start this whisking up. So we're going to go ahead and ice this chocolate cake using our chocolate, basic foolproof chocolate frosting. I'm going to show you what this gluten-free cake actually looks like. Our second cake on there. Now, don't be afraid to get all your frosting on the cake. Sometimes there's just easier to get everything out there, and I'll show you why. You can just push it around, and what is too much will fall over the side, which is where you want it next anyway. Now we have our cake iced. So let's see what we have here. What have we created? Yeah. Perfect chocolate layer cake. Your layers are nice and moist and tall. You know, it doesn't matter if it's gluten-free or regular, this is a good chocolate cake.